Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every single day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, a little bit of television, a little bit of MMA, sports, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. But we're going to focus here on the movie news. We got a number of things to talk about here today. Dwayne Johnson talking about his beef with Vin Diesel and the fact that he may not be in Fast and the Furious 9. We've got Simon Pegg making some comments, making it sound like maybe Rian Johnson changed what J.J. Abrams wanted to do with Rey in The Last Jedi. A whole bunch of other things, the movie news feed. But let's go right off the top with this. As some of you may know, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has had a ban on movie theaters for like 30 years. In like 1979, this ultra-conservative religious kind of movement happened in the country. They banned all movie theaters. However, under one of the new princes there, they want to kind of bring Saudi Arabia into the modern world, and they're allowing movie theaters in the country again. And the first movie to play in Saudi Arabia in nearly 30 years is going to be Black Panther. Black Panther is breaking this huge cinema ban that they've had in the theater for years and years and years. And it's interesting to know, too, that the first movie theater now open in Saudi Arabia, Black Panther is going to debut on April 18th, apparently. And the first theater is an AMC theater. They took what was supposed to be a symphony orchestra, luxury, high-end theater, and they've turned it into a movie theater. AMC says they have like plans to build like 50 theaters there over the next couple of years. We've got like iPic and a number of other movie theater chains are planning to build there now. And they're saying Saudi Arabia could become like in the top 10 biggest movie markets in the world when it's all said and done. So you know that's got theater chains salivating, you know that's got Hollywood salivating. And you know, Black Panther, which has been kind of not just a really good movie, but also a movie breaking barriers, creating new firsts, breaking new records, all that kind of stuff. There's something rather appropriate about Black Panther being the first film to play there in decades and decades and decades and decades. Once again, trailblazing, being ahead of its time in many ways. So I just think it's really cool and appropriate that Black Panther, and opening there in a market that hasn't had movie theaters for film fans. How much is this going to add to Black Panther's overall box office? Now, granted, it can't be all that much because it's one theater, but still, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact this being its first movie could have. And a movie that's as high quality as Black Panther is really probably just going to increase the appetite for movies and movie going in that country. I think this is an awesome development. Not just, of course, the bigger issue here is that they're opening movie theaters there again, but the fact that Black Panther gets to be the first one. I think that's terrific. Anyway, guys, we got a bunch of really interesting main topics to get to here today. But before we do, I want to make sure you are caught up on everything going on in the world of movie news, even if we don't have time to get into depth on all of these issues. So this is a little segment we call the Movie News Feed. First up, you might remember on yesterday's movie news feed that Ready Player One's original author, Ernest Cline, has another one of his novels being developed into a feature film called Armada, and I mentioned that the story sounds way too similar to The Last Starfighter. Well, today comes word that Star Wars Rogue One screenwriter Gary Whitta is actually developing a new The Last Starfighter project with the original's writer Jonathan Betul. Whitta said the following: "I happened to track John down, and after I was done pestering him with all my fanboy questions about the original film, we started to talk about what a new version might look like. Since then, we spent so many hours working on it, I've long since lost count. But right now, we have a fully developed story that is a combination of a reboot and a sequel that we both think honors the legacy of the original film while passing the torch to a new generation. We're both very excited about it creatively." Now, this is still pretty early in its development, and granted, it may never actually come to fruition, but if it does and we get another Last Starfighter film, I am going to be one happy camper. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Next, remember a few years ago when Robert Rodriguez said he was making a Red Sonja movie with his then girlfriend Rose McGowan in the title role? Well, it looks like another Red Sonja movie is coming anyway. According to Coming Soon, Millennium Films has hired Ashley Edward Miller, who has screenwriting credits on X-Men First Class and the original Thor film, to write the screenplay for Red Sonja. Miller said the following: "It's an exciting opportunity to faithfully adapt the amazing Hyborian world Robert E. Howard created and inject it with Sonja's intelligence, ferocity, and fearless humanity. I want people to love Sonja the way I love her, and walk walk out of the theater understanding why she's so popular and enduring. Sonya is an icon. You know, it's actually being said that the success of Wonder Woman is what got this project back on track. Let's see if it actually turns into a movie or if Rodriguez and McGowan's out again. Next, this one's really interesting. The final reports for the #1 sold and rented movies of 2017 on digital and Blu-ray have been released, and the results will probably surprise you. You'd be forgiven if you just assume that either Star Wars Rogue One or Wonder Woman top these charts, but they actually don't. According to Variety, the #1 purchased movie on both Blu-ray and digital in 2017 was the Disney film Moana. In the category of rented movies, Ben Affleck's film The Accountant actually took the #1 spot both on Blu-ray and digital rentals. Star Wars Rogue One took the #2 spot on Blu-ray sales and the #3 spot on digital sales, while Wonder Woman also did quite well, placing 3rd on Blu-ray sales, 2nd in digital sales, 4th in Blu-ray rentals, and 3rd in digital rentals. Moana's a surprise, but not a massive surprise. But when I read The Accountant, I was like, really? The Accountant? I mean, I'm super happy. I love that film, but I never realized it was rented that many times. Next, with Ready Player One now in theaters, director Steven Spielberg can now start turning his attention to his next film, Indiana Jones 5. In a recent interview, Spielberg was asked about the new film, in which he said the following: "This will be Harrison Ford's last Indiana Jones movie. I am pretty sure, but it will certainly continue after that." Indiana Jones 5 is currently slated to hit theaters in 2020 when Ford will be 77 years old. So the fact that he's even doing Indy 5 is a bit surprising, especially when you consider that Sean Connery was 58 years old when Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out. The big question will be, how does Indiana Jones continue without Harrison Ford? I'm sure Spielberg has some ideas that he simply won't share with us for at least a couple of years. Next, it may look like 3D, the completely useless movie theater gimmick that just gives theaters an excuse to charge you extra for a ticket, may actually finally be going away. Fewer and fewer people are choosing to wear the dark tinted glasses in movie theaters than ever before. According to Variety, box office revenues for 3D films in the US and Canada fell 18% in 2017 to $1.3 billion, according to a new report by the Motion Picture Association of America. That is the worst showing in 8 years and a steep drop-off from the $2.2 billion in revenues generated by 3D films in 2010, the year when Avatar generated a substantial amount of its box office grosses and helped kick off the revival of the format. If you've watched me for any period of time, you know I hate 3D. The death of 3D cannot come soon enough for me. And finally, remember a little while ago when the movie subscription service MoviePass quietly and suddenly removed several high-profile AMC theaters from their services in cities like New York, Boston, San Diego, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles due to the fact that AMC would not give MoviePass a cut of their ticket sale or concession stand sales? Well, it looks like that strategy never had its desired effect. Reports have come out that MoviePass has now lifted the restrictions on those theaters, but that no new talks or discussions with AMC are scheduled. AMC still maintains that they will never split ticket sales or concession revenues with the MoviePass company. But at least for now, MoviePass members who subscribe to the service and live in those cities can use their cards again. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. And now you are all caught up with all the significant stuff going on in the world of movie news. So let's get to the main topics today that you guys pick. How do you submit a question or topic to be on the John Campea Show? It's real simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put that word topic in the subject line. And guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's get things started here. And the first topic today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, Nathan Oswald, who writes, "So, according to Simon Pegg, Rian Johnson threw out the original plans for Rey's lineage that J.J. Abrams set up. I didn't like The Last Jedi, and this makes me more upset that Johnson would do that. I understand him trying to make his own movie, but him not continuing the plot point that Abrams started doesn't make any sense." All right. Well, for those of you who may not have heard of this, Simon Pegg recently did an interview talking about, The Last Jedi. He was being interviewed about other things in total, but just the topic kind of came up. And right now, everybody around the web is running headlines of Simon Pegg points out that Rian Johnson scrapped J.J. Abrams' plans for Rey and changed it entirely. Here's what Simon Pegg said, okay? This is specifically what he said on the topic, okay? Simon Pegg said this: I know that JJ kind of intended, or at least was being chucked around. I think that's kind of been undone slightly by the last one. There was some talk of a relevant lineage for her. Listen to the exact words again. I know what JJ kind of intended, or at least was being chucked around. I think that's kind of been undone slightly by the last one. There was some talk of a relevant lineage for her. Now, it should be pointed out, and then in the same interview, that's the quote that everybody's going with. In this same interview, Simon Pegg emphasized a number of times that, look, I really don't know. Like, honestly, the bottom line is I don't know. Like, he said, I don't know a couple of times. Like, he really doesn't know. But again, here's what he said specifically. He goes, I think there was at least being an idea thrown around. It was kind of undone slightly, or at least there was some talk of a lineage. Never did Simon Pegg ever directly say JJ had a plan for Rey's parentage and it was different from what they did. No, all Simon Pegg says, there was some ideas being chucked around, some ideas being thrown around, and ultimately he says he doesn't know. And yet, a lot of places around the web, a lot of people are saying, which is understandable, that somebody like Nathan now is hearing all these headlines saying, Rian Johnson threw out JJ's plan? No, that's not what Simon Pegg said. Simon Pegg said, I think there were some ideas being thrown at one point. Look, it's really important to point out here that the star of the new Star Wars films, Daisy Ridley, she commented on the heritage of Rey. And she was asked, anyway, there was this article in IO9 basically talking about that specific thing, about how the fact that a couple of years ago she was asked, or coming out of The Last Jedi, she was asked about that. And this is really what it was. Daisy Ridley, who told Rolling Stone last year before the film's release, this is the release of The Last Jedi, that the answer given about who Rey's parents are in The Last Jedi is what I was told in the beginning while making The Force Awakens. So essentially, Daisy Ridley says that the way they resolved her parentage in The Last Jedi was what she was always told from the beginning of making The Force Awakens. So here you have Daisy Ridley definitively saying, the star of the film saying, what we did with Rey's parentage in The Last Jedi is what I was told we were doing with her all along, ever since we did The Force Awakens. So you got Daisy Ridley definitively saying that. On the other hand, you got Simon Pegg saying, I think there was some ideas being batted around about something different. Clearly, here's the situation. Rian Johnson did exactly what was always planned they were going to do with Rey's parentage. And there are a lot of Star Wars fans, me included, who is telling everybody that her parents are going to end up being nobody. I mean, we've been saying that along. I made videos about how, look, if you look at The Force Awakens clearly is telling us, number one, that Luke ain't her father. Especially that scene with Maz Kanata clearly pointed out that Luke was not her father. And that most likely her parents aren't going to be anybody of consequence. And that makes most sense, and that has the best dramatic impact. That's what they did. So while there are a lot of people out there who continue to look for reasons to whine and moan and complain about The Last Jedi, that's not to take away that anybody who doesn't like the film shouldn't not like it. I mean, that's fine. All film is subjective. If you didn't like it, that's good. That's fine. But there are some people, a small fragment of people out there, who just continue to look for things to whine about, and they see this headline about, Simon Pegg said this. Well, actually, no, he didn't really say that if you look at his exact statement. And then when you compare that statement to what Daisy Ridley said, which was a direct statement that, yes, what we did with Rey in The Last Jedi was what I was always told we were doing with her. So no, let's just put a bow on this. Simon Pegg did not say, nor did Rian Johnson actually throw out J.J. Abrams' plans for Rey's parentage. He didn't do it. According to Daisy Ridley, that was the plan with her parentage all along. So if you don't like The Last Jedi, that's cool and you have your own reasons, but don't add this as yet another reason you don't like it, because it's just not the case. Daisy Ridley made that pretty clear, whereas Simon Pegg's statements were, I think there were some ideas being batted around, but I don't really know. Clearly, look, if you put this on the scales, it's clear the Daisy Ridley statement takes precedent here. So no, Rian Johnson did not throw out J.J. Abrams' idea for what he wanted to do with Rey's parentage. He followed through on what J.J.'s plan for Rey's parentage was all along. All right, let's move on to the next topic. And the next topic comes to us from Meghan Portrelli, who writes, I saw that Steven Spielberg seemed to confirm that the next Indiana Jones movie will be Harrison Ford's last film in the franchise. Do you think this is true? Also, if it is true, where does Indiana Jones go from here? Yeah, as we just mentioned in the movie news feed, Spielberg was, doing the press tour for Ready Player One. Fantastic movie, by the way. If you haven't seen Ready Player One, get out and watch it. Anyway. And, the topic of Indiana Jones 5 came up. And Indiana Jones 5 is set to come out in 2020. And Spielberg mentioned, as was said in the movie news feed, that, yeah, he's pretty sure this is Ford's last, but that Indiana Jones will continue. So it's going to be Ford's last, but we're going to keep making Indiana Jones movies without Harrison Ford. It's an interesting thing, and it kind of alludes to in the movie news feed, and I put this up on my social media last night. Put this into context. When Sean Connery did Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which came out in 1989, when Sean Connery made that film, he was old man Jones, like he was the old Dr. Jones, right? He was 58 years old, all right? When Indiana Jones 5 comes out, Harrison Ford is going to nearly be 20 years older than Sean Connery was when they did Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In 2020, when Indy 5 comes out, Harrison Ford is going to be nearly 20 years older than Sean Connery was when they did Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Wrap your head around that just for context. So it is kind of amazing that they're even still doing this. So yeah, I do believe this will be his last Indiana Jones film. The big question that came up for me when listening to Spielberg's comments on this was, when he said that we're going to continue to do it, where do you go? Like, clearly they're not going to get somebody, as old as Harrison Ford and continue on this Indiana Jones. Otherwise, you just keep Harrison Ford. So obviously they're going to do younger Harrison Ford. So what are they going to do? Are they going to recast and take it back to the era of the Nazis? Everybody knows that's what I want. I want to see Indiana Jones fighting Nazis. That's when I think Indiana Jones is at his best, when he's dueling with Nazis. But anyway. Or do you recast and do Indiana Jones in a modern context? Like, for argument's sake, I don't know, let's just throw the name Chris Pratt out there for a second, just for argument's sake. So let's say you recast Indiana Jones as Chris Pratt, but instead of set in the World War II era, you set it in 2019, or you set it in 2020. I think recasting is obviously what they're doing. I think recasting younger is obviously what they're doing. The big question to me is, what era are you doing it in? Are you going to do it in the Nazi era, in World War II? Maybe between World War I and World War II, maybe a little bit post-World War II? Do you bring it into the 80s? Do you do it in a modern context? My vote is to take it back to the Nazis and go back to that age of adventure. That's what I would love to see. But who knows what they got planned. But it's clearly going to be a while before we see anything. But yes, I do believe it will be Harrison Ford's final one. All right, let's move on to the last email topic in today. And the last email topic today comes to us from Simone Umba, who writes, "Greetings from Atlanta." Well, thank you so much, Simone. So there's this Rolling Stone article on The Rock, and he talks about his feud with Vin Diesel. People are now running with the story that he possibly is not coming back for Fast 9 since he's more focused on the upcoming spinoff. I honestly think he'll be fine since he does 12 different movies a year. It's true. What's your take on this? And keep bringing the filthy. All right, thanks a lot, man. And you know what? This is a saga. All this dirty laundry and all this drama surrounding the cast of the Fast and Furious franchise, it just seems to have no end. I mean, first of all, there was the thing that was nobody's fault. It was terrible tragedy with the passing of Paul Walker, yes. And the fact that they put out another movie, they were able to finish that movie, is amazing. But then you had all the Tyrese drama. Then there was this drama with The Rock. Remember a while ago tweeting out, hey, had a wonderful time with the female cast of Fast and Furious. Unfortunately, some of the male cast doesn't have any kind of a work ethic, and they're all candy asses. And it's like, I remember when The Rock put out those tweets like years ago, I thought that was just fake hype. Like, I thought that was him building up. I thought Vin Diesel was going to show up at WrestleMania, and Vin Diesel and The Rock were going to do. I honestly thought that. I honestly thought that was it. I thought it was fake drama. But it turns out it wasn't. And apparently The Rock and Vin Diesel just do not see eye to eye. And apparently it got so bad that in the last Fast and the Furious movie, The Rock confirmed that he and Diesel never shot a scene together. They were never on set together. He shot all of his scenes separate. And even in scenes where they're supposed to be in the same scene together, they shot it at different times. The Rock has confirmed this. Dwayne Johnson has confirmed that he and Vin Diesel never shot any scenes together in the last Fast and the Furious movie. Now, Dwayne Johnson came out and he basically was talking about things, and he talked about how it kind of came to a head with Vin Diesel. And Dwayne Johnson said this: Vin and I had a few discussions, including an important face-to-face in my trailer. And what I came to realize is that we have a fundamental difference in philosophies on how we approach movie making and collaborating. It took me some time, but I'm grateful for that clarity, whether we work together again or not. So it seems like the tension and whatever, I don't like going into celebrity gossip. I couldn't give two craps about celebrity gossip. But when it affects the movies we go to see, that's another thing. And it seems like this drama between Vin Diesel and The Rock, and The Rock saying things like, we have a difference of opinion in movie making and collaborating. To me, that sounds like Vin Diesel, he's the producer of the Fast and the Furious movies. He's kind of the guy in charge there on set. Sounds like The Rock thought that maybe they should do some things and Vin Diesel said no and wouldn't take any of The Rock's suggestions. I'm speculating here at this point. But when The Rock says, we just have different philosophies on what collaborating means, that's unfortunate. Now, who's to say that The Rock is right and Vin's wrong? Maybe Vin Diesel was totally in the right. And maybe Vin Diesel was totally in the right. But either way, these are two major megastars, the two biggest names in this franchise, and clearly they can't see eye to eye. Now, The Rock went on to talk a little bit about, alluding to whether or not they'll ever work together again or not. This is what Dwayne Johnson said. He goes, whether we'll work together or not, whether I'll be in Fast 9, I'm not quite sure. Right now, I'm concentrating on making the spinoff, Hobbs and Shaw, that he's doing with Jason Statham, as good as it can be. But I wish him all the best, and I harbor no ill will there just because of the clarity we have. Actually, you can erase that last part about no ill will. We'll just keep it with the clarity. I mean, I don't know how you have Dwayne Johnson and Vin Diesel in Fast 9 together at this point. Like, just with this statement, when The Rock puts out a public statement like this and says something along the lines, you know what? Take away that part about no ill will. So basically he's saying we have ill will. And he's saying, I don't even know we can be in the same movie together. We have difference of opinion in movie making. We have a difference of opinion in collaborating. We have all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to say this. Dwayne Johnson was asked about it, and he answered. I do kind of wish, and there is something refreshing about just honesty, yes, but from a professional point of view, I've been saying this all the time. Dirty laundry, keep it in the closet. Keep dirty laundry in the closet. If you and Vin Diesel have a beef, and you really want to answer the question, just say, hey, yeah, Vin Diesel and I have some differences of opinion. But leave it at that. Like, statements, and it's very rockish to say this, I get it, but statements like, forget that part about no ill will, and I don't know if I'll do that movie with him anymore. Like, maybe don't go into that. Even if it's totally true, even if you're in the right, even if the other person's right, maybe keep that one in the closet a little bit. Just say, hey, look, we got differences of opinion. Even say, I don't know that we can work together anymore. Maybe even say that. But I don't know. It's really unfortunate because the Fast and the Furious franchise really came to life box office-wise when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson came on board. And it was about the same time that they changed the direction of the movies as well to just be kind of ridiculous balls-to-the-wall fun. And they've really worked on that level. It's really a shame then that the two main faces of this franchise at this point, Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, can't seem to get it together on the same page. You got two alpha males, two massive egos, and it just seems like something's got to give, and it looks like maybe we're not going to see Dwayne Johnson in Fast 9. Who knows? It's going to be really interesting to see this spin-off movie that he's doing with Jason Statham. I am very excited about that movie, by the way, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right, guys. With that stuff out of the way, we want to save a few minutes here to go to some of your live questions. You guys have been sending in a bunch of live questions right now, so let's jump over to those right now. And the first live question today comes to us from Sam Fisher, who writes, just rewatched 42. Forgot how good Harrison Ford is in that movie. He steals it. It was really cool to go back and see how good of an actor Chadwick Boseman is too. You know, it's an interesting thing about 42. I didn't actually think 42 did the source material a lot of justice. I didn't think it did. You know, it's a true story, and I didn't think it did the true story enough justice. I didn't love that movie. However, I've always thought that the performance Harrison Ford gives in it is incredible, and the performance that Chadwick Boseman gives in it is absolutely incredible too. You know, not so long ago I did a video of like the top performances by Chadwick Boseman, and 42 was on that list. But so absolutely check it out. It's not the best movie, but if you want to see some really good performances in it, especially Chadwick Boseman before he was Black Panther, check that one out. All right, next one comes to us from Alexander Helmer, who says, favorite Alan Rickman role? I loved Gruber and Snape. Well, clearly it's Hans Gruber. Other than Vader, arguably the greatest villain of all time. He's also got this other great little film that I think he got nominated for an Academy Award for called Truly, Madly, Deeply. And I believe he was nominated. You guys can fact check me on that. I believe he got nominated for an Academy Award for that. Anyway, go check that out. Great performance in it, but easily. Hans Gruber. Easy for me. Dakota Barber writes, how tense was Quiet Place? Taking a date to see it. Yeah, I went to go see A Quiet Place last night. My review is going to be up in a couple of hours. I'm going to record the review as soon as we're done this show. I'm just going to say, I freaking love this movie. Love this movie. But again, I will do my review a little bit later today. Make sure you come back today and check out the full review. Alexander then writes again, watching the show in my boring chemistry class today. It's always amazing when I find other people are watching the show either at work or in school. The John Campea Show, contributing to delinquency all over the world. All right, next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, would you want a Dr. Evil standalone movie? Mike was on Fallon and did a skit as Dr. Evil, and he still has the chops. Yeah, I caught that. A bunch of people sent me the YouTube link for that. Mike Myers was on Fallon as Dr. Evil, and he was a cabinet member of President Trump. And he said, I was Secretary of Evil. And like, I was really more of an idea guy. And like, what kind of ideas were you? He goes, oh, the wall was all me. Anyway, it was pretty funny. I'd be down for a Dr. Evil movie. I'd be down for just about anything Mike Myers is doing. I know he's got a supporting role coming up in this Margot Robbie Netflix movie. Can't remember the name of the movie right now. But anyways, Margot Robbie's leading it. But I would love to see him back as Austin Powers, as anything he wanted to do. Anything Mike Myers wants to do, I'd love to see him. But yes, I would be down for a Dr. Evil movie. KW Garrett writes, 99% of your viewers know you need days off. Ignore asshats with no concept of decency or empathy. In 1 week, you create more hours of content than a Game of Thrones season. Actually, wait a minute. You know what? You're right. In 1 week, I do produce more hours of content than a season of Game of Thrones. You're absolutely right about that. That's funny. I never thought of it in those terms before. Yeah, I am contemplating, I'm still trying to get my channel situated and really figure out, look, there are more changes coming because I don't think, I've been doing this, we're about 9 months now. I think we're getting closer to what the channel is supposed to look like. My goal was, by the 1 year mark, I would really have the identity of the channel figured out. And once I get there, I'll probably schedule one regular day a week off. Right now, I'm working 7 days a week, and that's okay. I enjoy doing it. But my wife really wants me to schedule a day off. And a lot of you guys are encouraging me to take the day off, but I still got some more tinkering, fine-tuning to do about getting the channel to the place where I think, okay, now this is what the John Campea YouTube channel is. This is the DNA of the YouTube channel. And once I get there, I'll probably think more about taking some time off. Thanks a lot for the comment, man. All right, next one comes to us from Donaldo Martinez, who writes, you mentioned before that TV universe should stay separate from the movie universe. Are there exceptions, considering that Star Trek Deep Space Nine and The Next Generation were tied with the 90s movies? Well, no. That's kind of a different situation. Because now you actually have characters based on the movies, so you don't keep those separate. Like, for instance, if they decided to do a Game of Thrones movie, well, let's take another example. Let's say Lucifer, that's on TV right now. If you decided to do a Lucifer movie, much like, say, The X-Files had the TV show and the movie, well, they were the same characters. They were meant to be a part of the same, because they're the same characters. It's a different situation when you have different characters in different stories. So, for instance, with the Netflix series, yeah, I think they should keep those separate from the MCU. Now, if Iron Man was in the MCU and in the Netflix series, well, that's a different situation. That's a completely different situation. But in a situation like the Netflix series, it's totally different. When you're looking at the DC situation with the CW shows, Arrow and Flash, whatever, they're totally different characters. So you keep that separate from the movie universe. In a situation like The Next Generation, well, it was the same characters. It's the same story. It's the same lineage. You just happen to be doing, you took the stuff you were doing on TV and now you just moved it over to the big screen. That's a different situation entirely. So I don't think there's one broad kind of rule that says never have a TV and movie universe crossover. I don't believe there's one broad rule. I think you go situation by situation. With Marvel and DC and their cinematic universes, yes, I think those ones should stay separate. And that's why I think that, things are working so well for the Netflix, because even though they say they're in the same universe, they're really kept separate. And why the CW stuff has been working, because they're keeping it separate from the DCEU. But in a situation like Star Trek, it's a different situation. So you got to go situation to situation. There's never one cover-all rule. Elam Rem writes, what's your home theater setup? TV, speakers. I've got a 60-inch TV hanging above the fireplace. It's a beautiful size for, the size of the apartment that we're in. It's a great size for it. I don't have surround sound. I found surround sound in a room that small, really didn't have a lot of benefits. So I've got this really good, I bought this high-end sound bar with subwoofer. And I found I had better results in that size room, just in a living room size room. I got better results from it, so I went with that. Because I tested out a surround sound system, and it was decent, but wasn't really getting that full effect. And I found when I got a higher quality speaker system with the soundbar and the subwoofer, it worked a little bit better for me. So that's my basic setup. I love it. I love my setup. Murray for Us writes, I just saw last night Jaws, and I liked it a lot. Oh, the original Jaws? The original Jaws is freaking brilliant, man. That's awesome that you got to see it. Especially the score makes you feel terrified to go into the water. No kidding. Are the sequels any worth watching, or should I just pretend it didn't exist? No, Jaws 2 is worth it. Yeah. Jaws 2 isn't quite as good as Jaws 1, but Jaws 2 is worth it. Yeah, give Jaws 2 a shot. I think you'll enjoy it. Roy Schneider's back in there again. So yes, Jaws 2 is definitely worth it. Go check that one out. Luna Comics writes, do you think we'll get a Call of Duty Zombies movie? Nah, I don't think so. I think, first of all, let's see if we even get a Call of Duty movie. But a Call of Duty Zombies movie, I doubt it. I have strong doubts that would actually happen. James B writes, hey John, you mentioned Edge of Tomorrow yesterday on Open Mic, and its terrible marketing campaign. So glad I finally got around to seeing it. Anyway, great movie. And that's the thing, right? There are so many people who didn't see it because that marketing campaign was so bad. Like, as I mentioned on Open Mic yesterday, it's a bad marketing campaign. But you didn't even know how bad of a marketing campaign it was until you saw the movie. Because once you see the movie, you realize this movie is completely different from what they were trying to sell in that marketing campaign. This is a completely different movie than what they were selling in that marketing campaign. That movie, Edge of Tomorrow, could have been and should have been a huge hit. A huge hit. If it wasn't sabotaged by a brutally bad marketing campaign. Just brutally bad. So I'm glad that you got past it, James, and you watched the movie because it's really quite a good movie. Let's see. NTNLV16 writes, Daisy Ridley in Rolling Stone, November 17. Daisy has known for years who Ray's parents are. Ridley believes that nothing ever changed. I thought what I was told in the beginning was what it was. Oh, well, you probably wrote in that super chat before we got to the story because I quoted that exact same thing. Yeah, I mean, again, there's no story to be had here. Rian Johnson did not change what J.J. Abrams planned. Daisy Ridley's confirmed it, that what they did with Daisy and her parentage in The Last Jedi is what they always planned, right from The Force Awakens, so really there's no story there. Let's see. LS Flavor writes, what's up, John? Have you heard about James Cameron making new 3D tech for Avatar 2 where you don't have to have glasses? I've heard whispers about that, but I never actually thought that was a thing yet. So, I don't know. Look, to me, that is the one potential thing that can save. You guys have heard me say this before. That is the one potential thing that can save 3D for somebody like me, is the notion of not needing to wear glasses. If you can do good looking 3D without needing to wear glasses, that could change it could, I'm not saying it will, but that could change my opinion on 3D. So we'll see if we ever actually get there. Abraham Novello writes, doesn't Doctor Strange after credits guarantee a sequel? Or is Homecoming 2 still the only Phase 4 movie we know for sure? Homecoming 2 is still the only Phase film we know for sure. Look, nothing guarantees anything. Nothing guarantees anything. Like, I always go back to this, but it's a great example. The movie, remember those really popular dragon novels, Aragon, I think it was called? And they did the first movie, and it was trash. But the movie ends with John Malkovich unveiling his own dragon, saying, "No, yes, I am going to be, oh, look, I have my own dragon, wahahaha." So, if anything guarantees a sequel, that would guarantee the sequel. But there was no sequel. Nothing guarantees anything. It doesn't matter that Saban comes out and says, "We're going to make 7 Power Rangers movies." Oh, that's great. You can say that all you want until the first Power Rangers movie comes out and totally flops at the box office. Then you got to rethink your strategy. Nothing guarantees anything. Now, of course, Doctor Strange was not a flop. Doctor Strange made money. Doctor Strange was loved by the critics and the fans. Yeah. But still, nothing guarantees anything. If I had to put down $5, do I think a Doctor Strange sequel is coming? Absolutely I do. Yes, I think absolutely the odds are that it's coming. But is it guaranteed? Nope. Nothing guaranteed till they start shooting. Nothing's guaranteed till they start shooting. For all we know, Doctor Strange bites it in the first 5 minutes of Infinity War. I'm just saying. I don't think so. I believe we are definitely getting a Doctor Strange 2, but it's not guaranteed. Anything can happen. All right. The only person we know doesn't die for 100% for certain is Spider-Man, because Spider-Man Homecoming 2 is coming. So that's the only one we absolutely know is not dying. Mike Zambrano writes, "Do you think Rey will have a lightsaber staff?" I think so. I still think that staff is becoming a double-bladed lightsaber. I still believe that wholeheartedly. I got nothing to base that on, but I totally believe that. Let's see. Oops, took a big jump there. Phil Lee writes, "Avengers 4 World War Hulk. Is Hulk allowed in title?" Nope. The moment they put Hulk in title, that becomes a Universal film. Universal then gets the distribution rights for it. So Hulk, to the best of my knowledge, cannot be in the title of any of these Marvel movies that has Hulk in it. They can't do it because once Hulk is in the title, I believe, then Marvel can't distribute their own films. Disney can't distribute their own film. Universal gets to be the distributor on that. And Marvel has no desire to let another company distribute their films. Let's see. Bomb Squad writes, "They should make an Iron Spider versus Campea movie." I'm down. Tell them to call my agent. I'm down for it. I'm totally down for it. Let's see. Michael Croson writes, "Favorite U2 song? Have you seen them live?" Oh, I've seen them live a number of times. U2 is my all-time favorite band. And my favorite song by them is my single all-time favorite song, as a matter of fact, called "The Streets Have No Name." Where the Streets Have No Name. It's my all-time favorite song. Bomb Squad also writes, "Do you think we'll actually see Suicide Squad 2? As a matter of fact, I don't think we will. I'm not willing to put money on that. Like, I wouldn't even put down $1 on that. I don't feel certain about that by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're going to ask me straight up, do I think we'll see Suicide Squad 2? I don't think we will. Again, we totally may. I'm not willing to put any money down on that, but I kind of don't think we will. I think we won't. Omega J writes, "Hey, John, big fan since the Man of Steel review." Thank you so much, Omega. "Showed my girlfriend The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. She was freaked out." That's quite a movie to show your girlfriend, man. Yeah, that one was kind of freaky. That was a freaky, if I'm thinking of the right one, I'm almost sure I'm thinking of the right one. That movie was kind of freaky, man. Why don't you show your girlfriend Star Wars or something? Show her, Avengers or Justice League. Got to show her The Good Son. Unless there was method to your madness and the whole plan of getting her to jump into your lap and all that kind of stuff. In that case, it's called a strategy. It's called strategy. All right, final question of the day. And by the way, guys, if you have sent in live questions and I've run out of time to get to them here, don't worry. There is a companion video coming a little bit later today in which I will answer all the live questions you guys got sent in here that I don't get around to. They will be answered in that companion video a little bit later today. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, the final question today. Micah T writes, "Go easy on me because this might be a very stupid question." No such thing as stupid questions, man. Seriously. But I'm curious. Will they ever reboot the original Star Wars? I don't think they ever should, but I don't make those decisions. Well, first of all, Mike, that's a stupid question. No, it's not a stupid question. Look, someday. Look, here's the thing. Whenever you put the word ever, like, will they ever do this? Will they ever do that? When you use that word ever, it makes it very difficult to say no to anything. Will they ever make a live-action Strawberry Shortcake movie with Daniel Day-Lewis as Strawberry Shortcake ever? It's hard to say no to that word ever, because anything can happen. Like 5 years from now, the world could look completely different than it does now. Look, ever reboot Star Wars? Yeah, they could totally reboot Star Wars. And guess what? I'm totally good with it. Not as long as you've got Star Wars movies ongoing, but whatever down the line, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when they decide, okay, the ongoing story of Star Wars and this continuity that we've been doing, it's time to bring it to an end, and we're going to reboot Star Wars in a few years. I'm totally good with that. I mean, a lot of times I talk about how I'm totally good with any reboot, and people say to me, well, John, you wouldn't say that if you're talking about a Star Wars movie. As a matter of fact, I'm totally cool with them rebooting Star Wars. When they're done, and that new Star Wars might be great, and it might suck dog balls. Who knows? But if it sucks dog balls, who cares? I still got the original movies, and I'm totally happy. If they're good, then great. I have got new good Star Wars movies, and I'm totally happy. Either way, I win. As a film fan, I win. When they do a remake and a reboot, I win either way. Either I get another good movie to enjoy, or the movie sucks and I still have the original that I like. Yay! I don't lose. There's no scenario here in which I lose. So yep, I'm totally good with them rebooting it. And could they ever? Yeah, if you're going to use the word ever, sure. I could see it happening someday. Not anytime soon, but someday for sure. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Listen, do me a favor. You noticed that Nathan wrote in an email earlier, and he is a Patreon supporter. Do me a favor. If you enjoy watching these shows, do me a favor and head over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. Get all the information on, number one, what it means to be a Patreon supporter. Number two, how being a Patreon supporter keeps these shows on the air. And number three, what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And maybe you'll want to become a Patreon supporter too. Also, guys, make sure you're following me on Twitter, simply @JohnCampea. I'm very active on Twitter there. And don't forget, guys, a little bit later today, we've got our show Open Mic, which is just all open discussion. That's all we do is take live questions, and we just talk about whatever it is we want to talk about for the whole show. That's at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you come back later for that. Again, a little bit later today, we got the companion video to make up for these questions that we missed. Also, we've got my review for A Quiet Place. Come back and check that out as well. It's going to be a busy day around here on the John Campea YouTube channel. Make sure you're a part of it. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for right now. Thanks a lot for joining me, and until my next video, go Leafs, go.